Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Kama, page 119b, the final Daf of Bava Kama, Tractate Bava Kama, and we're on part 2 of 119b, starting close to the bottom, a few lines from the bottom. We just made a second video for time, but with the words Tashima coming here from a brisa, Tashima D'Tanya. The Gemara responds, coming to hear a resolution as it is taught in a brayta in the case of a tailor who left a thread attached to the cloth, but it was less than the length necessary in order to sew with it. Or if there was a patch of cloth that is less than 3 finger breadths, by 3 finger breadths left from the cloth given to the tailor by the customer, the halacha is dependent upon the customer's inclination. When the customer is particular about such items, these items belong to the customer, but if the customer is not particular about them, these items belong to the tailor. The Gemara analyzes the brayta to deduce the answer. Granted, if you say that Rav Asi meant to say that the thread must be the size of the needle, and that beyond the needle there must be an additional amount of thread equivalent to the size of the needle, then the ruling in the brayta is that a slightly shorter thread belongs to the customer if he wishes to keep it as reasonable, since a thread which is less than that length is still fit for use as the stitching of a loop. But if you say that Rav Asi meant that the thread must be the size of the needle, and that beyond the needle there must be any amount of additional string, then with regard to a thread that is even less than that, for what use is it fit that the customer might wish to keep it? Rather, learn from the brayta that Rav Asi meant that the thread must be the size of the needle, and that beyond the needle there must be an additional amount of thread equivalent to the size of the needle, so that the thread must be a total of 2 needle lengths. The Gemara affirms, conclude from the brayta, that this is so. The Mishnah teaches, I'm guessing this might be where they start with the siyum from this part. Anyway, the Mishnah teaches that which the carpenter removes with adze belongs to him, with odds, maybe tweezers, maybe it's a certain material, a certain tool. But that which he removes with an axe belongs to the customer. Oh, it's probably a smaller tool, which means smaller parts. An axe is a bigger tool, so bigger parts probably. The Gemara raises a contradiction to this ruling based upon a brayta. That which the carpenter removes with adze, and that which is severed with a saw belonging to the customer, belong to the customer. But with regard to that which comes out from under a drill or under a plane, rehitini, and that which is scraped by the saw, in other words, sawdust, these belong to the carpenter. Whereas the Mishnah rules that the carpenter may keep what is removed with an adze, and the brayta rules, I gotta find out what that is. Adze is this a new word I'm learning today. A-D-Z-E. It's probably some kind of a tool. The brayta rules that it belongs to the customer. The Gemara presents an answer. Rava said, in the place of the Tana of our Mishnah, there are 2 kinds of blades used by carpenters. The larger blade is called an axe, and the smaller one is called an adze. By contrast, in the place of the Tana of the brayta, there is only 1 carpenter's blade. And they called it an adze, or adze, or it's A-D-Z-E. If anyone wants to look it up. Consequently, the adze referred to in the brayta is actually an axe, and the rulings are therefore congruent. The Mishnah teaches, and if he was doing his work in the domain of the customer, then even the sawdust belongs to the customer. The sages taught in brayta to Sefta 11:18, stone chiselers are not in violation. Mastate avanim. Stone chiselers are not in violation of a transgression due to prohibition against robbery if they take the leftover chips of rock. Furthermore, with regard to those who prune trees, those who prune vines, those who trim shrubs, those who weed plants, and those who hoe vegetables, the halacha is dependent upon the owner's inclination. When the owner is particular about the plant trimmings, the workers are in violation of a transgression due to the prohibition against robbery if they take the trimmings, but if the owner is not particular about them, then these items belong to the workers. Rav Yehuda says, daughter, D-O-D-D-E-R, interesting homophone, daughter, like D-O-D-D-E-R, keshut. It's called keshut v'chaziz. And green grain. Daughter and green grain, dader, like not daughter, but dader. Daughter and green grain are not subject to the prohibition against robbery, as they grow on their own and no one tends to them. But in a place where people are particular about the ownership of daughter and green grain, they are subject to the prohibition against robbery. Ravina said, and the city of Mahasya is a city where the residents are particular about daughter and green wheat. Hadron alach Hagozel, Basra. Oh, Hagozel Umach. Okay, this the second Hagozel. Okay. Uslika la Masechtas Bava Kama. We shall return to you, Hagozel Umachel, or they call it Hagozel Basra, the second Hagozel. Interesting. Uslika la Masechtas Bava Kama, and we have completed Masechtas Bava Kama for now. Mazel Tov, congratulations to all of the Messiahim, all those who have learned the Daf Yomi of Bava Kama. May we, with God's help, continue on to complete many Masechtas, many tractates, and all of Shas, into the Geula, the return of the Messiah, the coming of the Messiah.